So you just got to be aware of that. That these are the names of those layers. It's not the name of the object. Okay? So I'd have to go back in here, double click, type in yellow star. If that's what I wanted to do. Okay, so just be aware of that. Alright, let's make a new document now. Now that you understand layers. It's going to make using the pen tool and actually tracing stuff out a lot better. This new document, let's call it pen tool. Now, in this document called the pen tool, the number one mistake that students make when they use the pen tool is not taking off their fill. Okay, when you use the pen tool, all you need is a stroke, and preferably a black stroke. That's it. So click on your fill, take out the fill, and make sure that the color of your stroke is black. You don't want to trace in any colors or anything like that. It'll help you out a lot in the long run. And now click on the pen tool, which is right next to the text tool. Hold down the pen tool and let's use that tear off. And the very first tool on there is the pen tool. So using the pen tool, click once, that makes an anchor point. Click twice, and that makes a line. Okay? Click on your black arrow, the selection tool. And now you can do whatever you want to that line. You can spin it around. It is what it is. Okay? And go ahead and delete that. Now, click back on the pen tool. Click once. This time, before you click twice, hold down Shift. And what does that do? Makes a straight line. Okay? Keep holding down Shift and click a third time. I'm going to click down here. And then click a fourth time at the first anchor point that you started at. You should make a triangle. Now if you use your black arrow tool, the selection tool, you can fill that in with the color. And so you could keep clicking around making straight lines like that and make whatever you want. The key is to always end up right back where you started. You'll notice whenever you whenever you ended up right back where you started, it changed your cursor. Did you guys see that? You see that little loop? That lets you know then that you're making a closed shape. Here's another mistake that students make. They do this. Instead of actually closing the shape, they do like this. They get really close to it. Okay? That's not a shape. What is that? This isn't a shape. What is it?
It's a curve.
It's a curve, right? Okay? It's not a closed shape. You're going to run into trouble in the future unless you make a closed shape. So just be aware of that. You always have to end up right back where you started. Okay? All right. Now for third grade. Click on the pen tool. First of all, Make sure you got no fill, solid black stroke. Click on the pen tool now, click once, click twice. This time, don't let go, you can drag out a curve. The further you drag, the steeper your curve is going to be. If you don't drag out at all, it's only going to make a small little hump. And you can do it in any direction you want. If you pull up, you're going to make a downwards arc. If you pull down, you're going to make an upwards arc. Until you notice the little handlebars that come out. Okay, that controls your angle. Make a third click, drag out an angle, and your fourth click is you're going to close the shape, end up right back where you started from. It looks like I made an eyeball or something. Now you notice when I close the shape, you'll see the handlebars extruding out, and that shows you where my angles are at. You can change the angles by holding down the Alt key. Find the Alt key. It's the key like 2 spaces over from your space bar. So when you hold down the Alt key, now you can go back in and you can readjust these angles as you want. If you get an error message that pops up like this, that means you're not clicking on an anchor point. Don't forget to click back on your black arrow when you're done. That's another mistake students make, is they just click again and then it does some weird stuff and messes them up. So click back on the black arrow. Now you can move that around. Alright, now that you've made some curves, you made a little curvy shape hopefully. On the tear off where the pen tool is, the very last tool on there is the convert anchor point tool, and that's the same tool that we used when we held down Alt before. So if you don't want to keep clicking back on the convert anchor point tool, when you're on the pen tool, all you have to do is hold down Alt and it'll get you right back there. But click on the convert anchor point tool, and if you click on your anchor points, it converts them, instead of curved angles, it converts them to straight angles. So you see, I made it back into a triangle by clicking on all 3 anchor points. If I wanted to go back curved, I click back on the anchor points again. And I drag out a curve. So if you get an error message, don't get discouraged. That just lets you know you're not clicking on an anchor point. And I do it all the time. I mess up a lot. Believe it or not, I am human. I am not perfect. Okay, check it out. The little plus and minus. Anybody figure out what those do? What's the little plus and minus on the pen tool? What do those do? Add anchor points and subtract anchor points. So if you click on the little pen tool with the little plus symbol, you can add anchor points onto your path. And then you can click on the convert anchor point tool again, and you can change those you can change those paths. The delete anchor point works the exact same way. Click on that, and now you can delete whole anchor points. And it does take some practice, I ain't gonna lie. But the more you work with it, pretty soon you'll be an expert. The easier it'll be. Okay, last thing. Take a look up at the screen. Before, whenever we wanted to move objects, we were using the black arrow tool, right? And that's the selection tool. But now we're going to be using the direct selection tool. The direct selection tool will allow you to move an individual path. Check that out. It will also allow you to adjust your angles as well. And that's the white arrow. That's the direct selection tool. You can also click on a whole path, or excuse me, you can also click on an anchor point and move the anchor point with the white arrow tool. So if you don't want the anchor point there, you want it to be somewhere else, you can click on that and move it. So that's the basics of the pen tool. There's a few more little tricks, and when you guys get the packet today, it's going to show you a couple different things that you can do with the pen tool, but that's pretty much the basics. But like I said, it does take some practice, does take some playing around, and then when we get to tracing, once you guys are able to do these little things, when we get to tracing, it'll be a lot easier. Okay, so that's all for the demonstration today. I will be passing out the new packet, but for those of you that didn't finish the scenery, you should work on that first. From there, you should work on the Pathfinder worksheet, and then finally this pen tool worksheet. Okay, so those are the three that you need to get caught up on for today. All right, and that's all from me.